Take my Lambo. I'll put on a tight show. You sure you can handle?
What are we
We be
missing?
faster than Django.
So salty. I'll steal the goodbye.
We can take my Lambo. I'll put on a tight show. You sure you can handle?
Good evening, a good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of High Top Sports. Woo-wee! Mr. Slaughterquist is in his house with shades on, boys and girls. His future is bright. And of course, Mr. Hollywood, baby. That's why David's got his shades on, baby. One of our favorite guests, Mr. Connor Clark, is joining the show to give us all things college football. We're excited to have you here, Connor. Appreciate you, as always, for hopping on, man. Glad to see you. You didn't write back on me on Twitter. I was like, he's mad at me. But I found out you just didn't see it. So I was excited when you said they were good to go. I was like, awesome. I love it.
Yeah, man, I'm sorry about that. I get a few DMs a day, so I did see it.
Mr. Hollywood, baby. You got to tell me.
I
got
planned
you,
on
dog.
responding, forgot to, and it just kind of just left my mind.
Yeah.
And then Dave hit me up today, and I was like, "Oh crap, I forgot to respond to Sheldon."
Hollywood's busy this time of year.
You know what I mean? Like, it's prime time, baby.
Here we go. Here we go.
I love it. I love it. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you coming on as always, dude. We absolutely love having you here. Did you get your hat finally? I was a little delayed on sending you your
Yes,
Okay.
I got the hat. It is sitting in the stash of.
hats.
I'm trying to think. Worn many times. I've worn
I
it
was about to
many
say,
times since
love
I've
it.
gotten it. Yeah.
Good,
Yeah,
man.
no, it's a fantastic hat, man. Great quality stuff you have there at High Top Sports.
I appreciate you giving us a plug, man. I appreciate you the
You
support.
got a hat collection, don't you? How big's your
do,
hat
yeah.
collection?
My hat collection or his hat collection.
Yeah, I got a bunch too, Dave. I don't know.
I was gonna say he's got a new hat on every time I see him on the show. So
It's
Yeah, there you go.
ridiculous. It's bad. Boys and girls, welcome to the show. Make sure you guys drop a like, show some love. We have a jam-packed one for you. I'm telling you, it is jam-packed. We have another special guest coming after Connor. You guys may know him, you may not know him, so it's going to be fun. But we're going to talk about the big weekend coming up next weekend. Obviously, some superstars being predicted to Florida. Austin Simmons, a ton of news surrounding him. It's not just one topic. We got a lot to go over with him. Florida, Georgia, that weekend being cemented for the next 2 years. We're going to talk about that. Michigan State, Penn State finding a neutral site. Some drama with some college coaches from the ACC, talk about the portal. All good things. We got this or that, our new segment that we like to do, and then we got some LeBron James talk to get started off with because I gotta get my vent out. I had a tweet and I had a few people kind of coming after me, and I have to use my platform for something here. So before we get into that, though, let me say hey to the chat real quick. We got guys, speed my boy. What's up, baby? LFGM, Gator. What's up, Tyler? Eat a dick. JT, Andrew, Scott, Tyler, Modi, Ricky, Sorley. What's up, Piss Missiles? Charles, Scott 020, and Mr. Bean. Welcome to the shows, boys and girls. And Holly, he's in there as well, so make sure you guys give him some shit for missing last week. But first order of business, and I'm glad that we've got Connor here because he's a big basketball guy. I mean, he kind of played it off, but he's tweeting about basketball and Orlando getting the first pick, so I know he knows what he's talking about. He dabbles into this. LeBron obviously got swept by the Nuggets, and I know we typically don't talk about basketball, but I've been a basketball fan for a while. I'm a big Miami Heat fan. I've been vocal about that. Watching the game on, Monday night against the Nuggets, I was going for LeBron James and the Lakers. One, because I wanted that series to go a little bit longer, and I like the legacy that LeBron has. It's fun to watch. As much as we love to hate on LeBron and we love to give him shit, what we've witnessed over the last 20-plus years has been something incredible. You can't deny that. It really has. Whether you hate him, love him, once it's done and over with, we're going to look back like, yeah, that was pretty cool to see. Like, that was a good time. That was fun. No matter how you feel about him. However, I have defended this man for a very long time. Okay? Now, once he left Miami, I wasn't as big of a fan, but I've always defended him and his success and kind of who he was. He let me down on Monday night. 35 seconds to go. They're down by 2. He carries the ball up court. He dribbles the ball all the way down to 9 seconds. Just not even moving. Not moving around, passing the ball. Just dribbles it down to 9 seconds, steps up, and passes it to undrafted Austin Reeves. And then Austin goes on to miss it. They go back down later on. They're able to get the ball back. He comes back, obviously, and gets blocked. That was not a foul. I don't care what anybody says. He got denied by Murray and Aaron Gordon. But he's old, okay? And it was shown. But you had an opportunity to take over that game, and you passed the ball. At that point, I was done. The disappointment had stepped up, and I could no longer defend him. I was devastated. I was like, this is what you live for. This is what you've talked about. This is what you get compared to with Jordan and having that dog in you and all this jazz and all this stuff. You had your chance in LA. All eyes on you to keep the series going, to possibly go to 7 games and do something that's never been done before. It relied on you. And everyone's like, oh, he put up 40 points. He put up 31 in the first half. So that means he put up 9 for 2 more quarters after that. He was irrelevant when it mattered most.
Let's get it.
And what pissed me off even more is the next day, Brian Windhurst on ESPN goes, they lost terrifically. Who the fuck says that? How do you lose terrifically? You got swept. I don't care if they were the 1 seed and you were the 7 seed. You got swept. That is not losing terrifically. And don't downplay the Lakers team. You have Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Schroeder, Austin Reeves. I know he's undrafted, but he's having a great season. He's doing phenomenal things. Tristan Thompson, I know he's coming off the bench, but he's a superstar. He's won a ring. He knows how to play in these games. You're not running around with a bunch of struck. D'Angelo Russell, you got some dogs in that basketball team where you should not be getting swept. That's all I had to say about that. Connor, what are your thoughts on it? Am I crazy here? Am I going a little too off the deep end?
No. I mean, at the most pivotal moments in a game like that, you should want, as a superstar, you should want the ball in your hands and your hands only. Point blank, period. I know a lot of LeBron fans will say that he has made a career of making the right play in moments like that, maybe deferring that guarded jump shot to a wide open player. And they're not wrong. It's a very good point. He's a smart basketball player. He often makes the right play in those moments. But as a superstar, you have to know when's the right time to pass it off and when's the right time to take the shot, whether you're guarded or not. Kobe Bryant took a lot of those shots, guarded or not, missed a lot, but made a lot. Michael Jordan, same way. It didn't matter if he was triple teamed. He's going to take that shot because there was nobody on the floor that he thought deserved to have the ball more than him.
Yep.
Austin Reeves is a guy I really like. So if there was any other person on the team to take that shot, either Anthony Davis or Austin Reeves would probably have to be that guy. I think Austin Reeves is going to have a fantastic offseason. He's going to get paid a lot of money. I don't think he'll be able to stay in LA as a restricted free agent because somebody's going to offer him $20 million a year. And I'm hoping it's Orlando.
James is MJ's shadow.
But I mean, he's going to have a fantastic career. He's still young. So giving him the opportunity to shoot a shot like that, I don't hate, but I also think that as the superstar, as somebody that's in the conversation for the greatest of all time, and you're on the verge of being swept in the Western Conference Finals, you have to take that shot, in my opinion. Now, people can tell me that I'm wrong. I don't follow basketball as closely as I follow football, so you can tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. I follow it enough to know that you want the ball in the hands of your best player in the most pivotal moments. And with all due respect to Austin Reeves, it's not him.
Yeah, no, I'm not. It wasn't a shot at Austin Reeves. He could have passed it to anybody, and I would have still gave him the same crap. It's just like I felt like, look, Austin Reeves was the only one playing like a dog that night. So I get it. If you're going to pass it to somebody on the team,
really,
Austin Reeves.
Austin Reeves had a fantastic series in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, it wasn't like you pass it to a bad person. I was just like you pass it to the new guy. It's you know what I mean? Like it's not even like he's shown, like it's not like it's Ray Allen sitting in the corner who has hit that shot 1,000 times. Although he's been playing great, it's just that shot is just something that you want to give to somebody who, like when Ray Allen hit it back in Miami, nobody had a question that he was going to hit it. Like that guy hit that shot 1 billion times. They know that, he knew that. The fact that he was able to take a step back and know where he was to shoot it just shows how well he understood the court. Those guys weren't there yet, but I'm glad we're on the same page that I wasn't too off the rocker. I'm sure some of you guys are pissed because y'all hate NBA, but I had to get it off my chest. I've been watching this for a long time. I've been watching LeBron. I've been watching, obviously, Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler has been that dog this series. Like, the way that he's been playing, man, has been so fun to watch. And that's what I'm talking about, where it's like, he doesn't even get into the conversation, I feel like, and he's out there saying, give me the ball. I want it. And that's what people expect LeBron to do. Yes, high IQ, But sometimes you just got to go be that dog, dude. In a sport where you have the opportunity to be him and not have to rely on anybody else, you got to go be him, especially if you want to be considered the GOAT. Couple super chats and then we'll move on. Dominic, bro, we're trying to keep it PG here, bro. Like, what's up? $5 for Dom says, let's get it. I have big announcement. My sister is having a baby. I'm going to be a dad. Like, what's up, bro? What's up, dude? He goes, the Duck Race made me do it. JK, love you guys. Keep it up. I appreciate it. And then he goes, shut up, LeBron James is MJ shadow. That's what I'm saying, I think, right? That's what I was saying. All right, boys. All right, enough. La Swift in there, Butler, that guy. Absolutely. Love it, guys. All right, I'm glad we're on the same page. Glad we all agree. I'm not a LeBron hater. I knew that was going to come. I literally started this my rant by prefacing my love and appreciation for him, but he just disappointed me. I knew that was going to happen. Can't please them all. All right, moving on. Austin Simmons, our 2025 quarterback had a monster scrimmage / practice game yesterday. Connor informed me that I had the wrong thought of this game. His final spring game is tomorrow, correct, Connor? But they had like a scrimmage practice game, kind of like Florida Gators spring game where they play against one another, where he threw for 400 yards and 6 touchdowns. Absolutely insane. I don't care. Then I was going to use this comparison to when Jameis Winston, or Jameis Winston, I like to call him, at FSU threw for 24 of 25 against Pitt. I remember when he did that. And people were trying to downplay, like, oh, it's against Pitt, not that big of a deal. To throw 24 for 25 in practice is tough. And so for him to do that again was again, impressive. So again, 400 yards, 6 touchdowns in practice is impressive. Maybe in a game it translates to 320 and 4 touchdowns, right? I mean, think about how to kind of just the weight of that. Now, who knows who he's going up against, but still, just to be able to sling the ball around, man, is absolutely incredible. Did you have any thoughts, or were you able to see those highlights, Connor?
Yeah, I was. I shot out one tweet after watching it. It's a couple minutes long. If you haven't had the time to go look at it, anybody that's in here listening, take the time to go look at it. The kid's an absolute stud. I think he's got a phenomenal throwing motion. He's worked hard in the last 6 months. Baseball player by trade. So he, for a little while, had an elongated throwing motion. He's really worked really hard on making that more compact. It's real. He's got it just a pretty looking throwing motion for a lefty. You don't see that very often. Ball just jumps off his hands, and he, because of the improved mechanics and the compactness of his mechanics, I guess, for lack of a better word to say. He's got great ball placement. He's got fantastic accuracy. So I think he's really improved over the last year, and is somebody that could be college ready sooner than later.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, Dave, go ahead.
So I talk to Will Miles a lot, and I know Connor knows who Will Miles is. He does a lot of good analysis and breakdowns, and we'll have a preseason magazine coming out here soon, so be on the lookout for that. But I talked to him, and he's like, so can if Austin Simmons reclassifies, can he start? So, I mean, I've looked at his film, and to be honest, and it's not me blowing smoke, and I've said this on the show before, he's got the total package, man, when you look at it. I mean, he progresses through his reads really well. He knows how the plays are going to form before it happens. And it just looks like he does everything. And of course, they're going to post the good highlights on Huddle. They're not going to post any bad highlights of throwing picks or anything. But you go and look at his statistics. I mean, they're pretty damn good. I mean, I think his sophomore year, was it? He was like the second placed quarterback for passing in the state of Florida. I think he was, number 2. I have to go back and look at that. But he's number 2 in one category in passing. But, like, you just look at his film. He's got all the mechanics. Well, I guess with the throwing motion you were talking about. But he's got, like, the mechanics down. He's got just everything that you want in a quarterback. He reminded me a little bit of Will Greer when I watched his Davidson Day film when he was in North Carolina. He reminded me a lot of him. So, I mean, I'm excited for him to get here. I know when Will Greer was recruited and our quarterback play was really bad, I wanted him to start as a freshman because I just thought he was better than Treon Harris and all the other guys.
Yeah, Will Greer was that guy.
Yeah, Will Greer was that man, and I'm hoping that Austin Simmons turns out to be sort of like that, but better. But it looks like that. And plus, he's really smart. I mean, 5.34 GPA. I mean, I'm sure he applies that to football as well. I'm pretty sure he's a smart kid and knows what he's doing. I just can't wait, man. I hate to say this too, because I think DJ Lagway is a very, very phenomenal quarterback, and I think he's going to be great here at the University of Florida. Austin Simmons might be a little bit better. I don't know.
Dave, might be stealing my thunder that you've been sneaking into some group chats that I've been in.
Ooh.
So
Ooh.
oh man,
Here we
DJ
go.
first and
Buckle
foremost.
in. This is
First and foremost, I think DJ
I
Lagway
played
is a
your eyes,
phenomenal
guys.
talent. A phenomenal talent. He is an outstanding player and every bit deserving of the 5-star status that he has. I think Austin Simmons in the 2025 class is a bit underrated. And as a pure passer, I think he is further along at this point in his career than DJ Lagway is.
Yeah, that's exactly what I should say. Now, it's DJ
Hot
Lagway.
mic!
DJ
As a
Lagway's an
pure
elite
passer,
quarterback.
let me state that again. As a pure passer, I think Austin Simmons is further along than DJ Lagway. I think DJ is a better all-around athlete. I think DJ has a better arm, but Austin Simmons is like I said, mechanics fantastic. And I think the biggest thing, and I think the biggest problem I have, and I might catch some flack for this. The biggest problem that I have with quarterback coaching in today's day and age is too many quarterback coaches are coaching the Patrick Mahomes throws, the off one foot, throwing off your back foot, throwing sidearm, throwing like not using proper quarterback mechanics. And that is becoming everyday life now for these quarterbacks. So when they're sitting in a clean pocket, they don't know how to step into a throw. They don't know how to set their feet properly and deliver a strike with proper mechanics. Instead, they're relying completely on arm strength, which somebody like DJ Lagway has plenty of. So he can get away with it. But you don't see that same stuff from Austin Simmons. When you see Austin Simmons go through training, or when you see him sit back there and throw the football, the mechanics are sound. His footwork is absolutely fantastic. And I think that's why at this stage in his career, I think he's further along as a passer fundamentally than DJ Lagway is. I'm not saying he's more talented than DJ Lagway, but fundamentally, I think he's further along.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was really trying to say, but I kind of made it sound a little bit different. So.
No, I think you guys are both spot on. I love your take. Obviously, I could tell like you guys are being hesitant because it's gonna get spun the wrong way. Like we're taking a jab. It's not that at all. It's just simply just processing what we're looking at here and giving our thoughts and opinion. Both guys are great, and I think it's a good problem to have. If you got both of these guys that are highly talented quarterbacks in their class, both coming to the same place, and we're just talking about how great both of them are. That's great to hear, and I love your take that hey, where the coaching is heading. And I have noticed that, right? A lot of clips you're seeing now from quarterbacks is on the run, the quick sidearm, across the body, that flashy look, which is important to have. Nobody's not saying that at all. But you don't want to get away from the basics because the NFL, that stuff works, yes, what Patty Mahomes does. But Patty Mahomes also has the sound base there. That's a secondary, is he's able to do that. He's just really good at it, so it makes it seem like it's natural. But look, being able to extend the play and being able to throw it off the side of your arm and all these jazz because you have a strong arm is definitely an attribute. We just want to make sure you've got both of those things. So, look, I think for Billy's offense, what we've looked at and what we've been studying, and for the fact that he's going after somebody like Graham Mertz, that Austin Simmons style seems to fit what Billy's trying to, put into his offense as well. So, love it. Great take from both of you guys. I appreciate the insight. And look, if you guys want to add me to the group chat so I could be a part of this, that'd be fantastic. If not, it's fine. Totally cool. Whatever. You guys let me know.
I'm only in one group chat with Connor, I believe. I think it's just one. I might be in multiple ones.
I'm in none.
I'm in so many, I don't pay attention to half of them. So
I feel that. I have started a horrible debate here about LeBron and MJ. I didn't realize why. I knew what I was doing, but my goodness, guys, we moved on. Like, forget about it. Nobody's ever going to agree on this. It's done and over with. I just wanted to give you my thoughts and opinion. But we were doing a lot of winking and hooing and hollering. about Simmons possibly reclassifying. We came out with a video this past weekend about it. People have been talking about it. The noise has been just growing about it. I know you can only say so much, Connor, and obviously everyone has their thoughts and opinion, but I want to get your thoughts on him possibly reclassifying. And then I want to get your thoughts on, hey, do you think it's a good idea? Because a lot of people commented on our video about him reclassifying, and it was pretty 50-50. Some love it. Some were like, no way, I don't like it at all. And I don't think anybody's wrong. I don't think we know enough. We haven't seen something like this happen before, so nobody knows how to take it. In my video, I prefaced, we're used to seeing somebody step back a year and allow themselves to grow and get stronger and faster, and allows them to adjust to a different style. There's a whole book it's called Outliers, and it talks about when people are born. And if you go look at people in the NHL, NBA, NFL, they're all born around the same time, because how they go through and how they draft and how you get put into a sport, how your age is you can be sometimes considered a man amongst boys because you were born a little bit later, right? So you're 13 playing with 12 and 11-year-olds because of the way your birthday fell. So you're bigger than everybody else. You're stronger, faster, et cetera, because you got a few more months of development. May not seem like much, but over time that starts to add up. So guys hold themselves back to get into that category. This is a completely different animal. He's trying to jump ahead. So there's a lot of question marks here, but I want to get your thoughts on all that, Connor.
Yeah, so like you said, kind of uncharted territory as far as someone reclassifying, and not necessarily just reclassifying, but reclassifying to the extent that it's being speculated for Austin Simmons. So Kamar Wilcoxon is somebody that graduated a year early, got onto campus. But in the football perspective, it doesn't happen often. There's very, very few and far between that guys reclassify up a year. Austin Simmons is talking about jumping 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So when Dave kind of spoke about this, the 5.3 GPA, he graduated his high school. He finished his high school courses when he was a freshman in high school. So logistically, it's 100% possible that he reclassifies as long as his transcripts are in order, which he was homeschooled for quite a long time, which is why he was playing football at Pahokee and baseball at another school in Miami. He's now transferred to, I think it's Morehaven School, to play his football for the last time on Friday. Maybe he plays another year and reclassifies. Who knows really what's going to happen? There is no set in stone of what is going to happen with Austin Simmons. There's a lot of smoke out there. I do kind of like to say where there's smoke, there's fire. So that's one of those things that if there's this much smoke out there, there has to be some merit to it. But Simmons is one of those kids that he's 17 years old right now. So it's not like you're bringing in, if he's reclassifying 2 classes, it's not like you're bringing in a 15, 16-year-old to come on campus and compete with 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds. He's 17 years old already. He's going to be 18 not too far in the future, I think. He's around the same age as DJ Lagway. So him reclassifying from a physical perspective, not a huge outlier or not a huge detriment to him because he's not that young. From a development perspective, I think it's great for him. He's got the opportunity to come in, and he's not going to be pressured to start right away. Billy Napier is perfectly happy with Graham Mertz being there. He thinks he can win with Graham Mertz in his system. Simmons can come in, sit behind Graham Mertz, develop, and then him and DJ Lagway fight it out in spring next year.
It's a good problem
so
to
I
have.
mean, from a perspective of, is it good for Austin Simmons? I think it's great if he decides to do it because he can get in early, develop his knowledge of the game. He's a coach's son, and I hate all those cliches. Coach's son, first in, last out, gym rat, sneaky athletic, all that crap. But he really is. He's a coach's kid. He's got a 5.3 GPA. So,
first in, last out, gym rat.
So he's a smart kid. You see the processing when you watch his film. So as far as the mental side of the game, I'm not really worried about him picking that up. And if he's as talented as we really think he is, and if he's as smart as his GPA suggests, if he does reclassify, what's to say he doesn't see the field in week 6, week 7, if things aren't going well with Graham Mertz? I think if he gets on campus,
if Simmons comes in,
he's very quickly one of the most talented players in that
about losing Lagway. Thoughts, guys?
Sorry, I gotta get rid of that.
No, you're good. I see a super chat question about Simmons and Lagway.
You can read it. Go ahead.
If Simmons comes and sways Lagway away from the Gators, he'd start year one because we need a QB. This really worries me about losing Lagway. So that is actually a common misconception. If Simmons does indeed reclassify, Lagway's not going anywhere. DJ is not afraid of competition. DJ was actually recruiting Austin Simmons while they were on campus together. When Jeremiah Smith was on campus, I think it was early April. Just before Austin Simmons committed, DJ was recruiting him to come to Florida. He loves competition. They're both. I got the chance to speak to Austin the night before he committed. When he told me, "Hey man, I'm going to be a Gator," he was super excited about competing with DJ Lagway. So both guys are not scared of one another. They welcome the competition and they think it's going to make them better.
I think we're all afraid of stacking players now because of the transfer portal. But Bama has shown that you can have quarterback after quarterback after quarterback and it be successful. That their last four have been successful and they've all played behind one another. Bryce Young being the exception because he had 2 seasons. But you had Jalen Hurts, Tua, and Mac Jones. They're all in the same room together, all 3 of them. And now look, all 3 of them. They're all thriving in the NFL. Look at Georgia. They can't stop getting quarterbacks into the room. It's just one after another. So you can have it. I think again we're a little gun shy, which we should be, right? We're a little nervous about how this is being handled. But if these guys come in and they're as good as they're as advertised, and they're able to make each other better, and one is 2023 and one's 2024. Austin Simmons plays for 2 years. DJ gets a year, maybe 2, and they both go and be successful in the NFL. That's what they both want, anyways. So, and they both grew each other, right? What if one leaves and goes somewhere else and maybe falls on his face because he's not in a better program? There's a lot of things that can happen when you leave. I think, again, with the new portal stuff happening, it does cause a little bit of concern. But I love that you kind of just shut that up really quickly. No, it's not a problem at all because he understands like this is part of the game. It doesn't start with me, i.e. being DJ, and it doesn't end with me. Like this has to continue to keep growing and getting better and better. So.
And you got to look at it too. Like DJ Lagway is not going to go out of his way to recruit all these guys if he's just going to leave if Austin Simmons reclassifies. And you got to think too. Also, if Jaden Rashada had came into the class, he would have been competing with him anyway. So it doesn't even really matter. So now you just replace him with Austin Simmons, and then now you got a good quarterback competition going into 2024, 2025.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, DJ actually committed about 10 days before Rashada signed to Florida. I think it was like December 7th or something like that. So he and Jaden Rashada was committed. So he was not scared to come into a quarterback room that had Jaden Rashada in it for this class. And this is all a moot point if Austin Simmons doesn't reclassify. So I mean, we can sit here and talk to her blue in the face.
You know, that's what we do right here.
We can sit here and talk to her blue in the face about, oh man, I hope this doesn't affect DJ Lagway's commitment to the University of Florida. Well, until Austin Simmons is enrolled at the University of Florida, this is all a moot point.
And at the same time, like DJ Lagway, I lost my train of thought. Never mind. Go ahead.
Hey, but look, that's why I love bringing Connor on the show. Such a breath of fresh air, man. Always just kind of giving your thoughts and perspective. Because obviously, you know, the 3 of us, Steve and Dave, we're always talking. And sometimes you can kind of get a little close-minded. Your opinions all start going another way. So it's great bringing you in here and getting your thoughts. I know the chat loves it. So I really appreciate it. I think it's a great point. Something you mentioned, too, I got a lot of flack for it because in my video, I said he was 15. Most sophomores are 15, 16 years old. My little brother, class of 2026, he's 15. So I was just going off of just basic math. And everyone's like, no, he's 17. I was like, okay, well, then back to my point I said earlier, that book about Outlier was he's one of those occasions where he's a man amongst boys. So he's ahead of his current class in a sense, right? Like you were saying, not just mentally, but physically, he probably was born at a time where he's ahead of everybody in his current class. So he's not as far back as the graduation year is saying that it is what you were referring to as well too.
Time my heart was about to drop.
And something funny too is we see people jump education wise, right? Like him being able to go to college already. That is an extreme norm because we were talking about this isn't very normal, but jumping education is extremely normal, especially nowadays. I feel like everybody's doing it. Most seniors in high school are already in college by the time they're senior year of high school. I was still a freshman my senior year, but as you were, go ahead.
Oh, and the last point I'll bring up, because I know we got to move on, but like Austin Simmons, he's been very vocal about like getting his PhD, getting ahead of his classes. And I think I heard he's already got like 15 college credit hours. If I'm not mistaken, Connor, you may know. I don't know.
I don't know the
heard that-
exact number, but 15 might be selling him short, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. Like he, if you just follow the trends, I mean, it's trending that he's possibly going to reclassify. We don't know that, but it's trending that way. He could not. He could stay. And if you can lock him in, then you can go after somebody else in the 2025 class. You're not having to worry about recruiting him. He's already locked in. So now you can go after another guy.
And I think the thing that people have really read into in this situation is Billy Napier's comments. He said, "Hey, we're going to add another quarterback to this room."
Yep.
He didn't say and people have asked him, "Hey, Billy, are you guys going to go for another transfer quarterback?" We're going to add another quarterback to this room, not another transfer quarterback.
Basically, we're not going to the portal. So
he's not specifying, "Hey, we're going to go to the portal to find another guy." But he did say we're going to add another quarterback to this room before fall camp starts. And a lot of people are reading into that. Well, it has to be Austin Simmons then. I mean, Billy has proven you can take him at his word. So it's one of those things where you have to just take him at his word, and he's gonna take another quarterback.
I love it. Connor is a professional, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I don't know why he continues to come on our show, but we appreciate it. He's like the JJ Redick. Okay, we're the ESPN just kind of floundering around, and he's JJ Redick, just smooth and to the point. I love it. We got over 200 people in here. Make sure you guys show some love and drop a like.
Something that made that comment come out. What did I miss?
What?
I mean, just unprompted flattery. Did I miss something that made that comment come out?
I mean, you're just smooth, man. You just got it going on. You know, it's just a swagger. I love it. It fires me up. Like you're just the way you navigate through it. You know what I mean? It's phenomenal.
They don't call him Hollywood for nothing.
You know, you're right. That's why I forget. I forget. No, man, you're just good, man. It's such a breath of fresh air having you on. I love it. West Day says, thank you. My heart was about to drop. I'll sleep better. And referring to the DJ Lagway and Austin Simmons. He was
DJ's not going anywhere unless something drastic happens. It would have to be drastic.
As long as Billy Napier is the coach at the University of Florida, DJ Lagway will be a Gator.
That's it. There you go.
Billy ain't going nowhere, boys. All right, moving on to some crystal balls, to some trending projections for some players for the Florida Gators. On3 threw out a little feeler on who they felt was coming to Florida. The Georgia Bulldogs just landed the number 1, a top 5 tight end in the 2024 class today. And Amir Jackson, according to his On3 projections, were leaning between Georgia and Florida. So that noise really picked up for us landing a 4-star tight end, which we would love to have. I think we've lacked. Always Bordenham shows a lot of promising sight, but we need to get back to having some studs on the tight end side. So he's one. Zay Mincy's another one, and TJ Moore. So we're gonna pass it over to you guys, kind of get your thoughts and opinions, and kind of who out of these three are your favorite to land and must get for this coming year. Dave, you can go first.
No. Please go ahead. It's your show.
Our must gets for this year. I would say Dylan Evans. I would put him down there.
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M. We need that. We need a tight end. So I would say, what his name's on the tip of my tongue. Well,
Amir Jackson was it?
Amir Jackson. That's it.
Walter,
Amir Jackson.
Walter Matthews.
Yeah, Walter Matthews, and I would rather have Amir Jackson, but that's just me. We need a tight end, and then, guys, I guess you're pretty good on safety. We need offensive linemen. So I would say, God, there's so many of them out there right now, and it's still so early. So just give me an offensive lineman.
Anybody,
any
please.
offensive lineman, just anyone, just grab one.
There's so many of them. I mean, there really is right now. So
Connor?
I would say offensive line, then tight end, and then Evans.
Yeah. Must gets. Defensive line. I would say you have to get a nose tackle in this class. DeAndre Robinson out of my hometown of Orlando, Florida. Somebody that I think you have to land. Either him or what is that? This is terrible podcasting. I know this kid.
David Stone?
Scheduled. Nasir Johnson. Nasir Johnson or DeAndre Robinson, both of which I think can play the nose.
And Nasir's set to visit FSU later this week. We're going to talk about later on the show, and he's kind of between the two schools right now.
He does have an official visit locked in with Florida in a couple weeks as well. But they're two that I think you have to land at least one of them. I do like your Dalen Evans statement, Dave. I think that kid's a stud, and I think you can't stop adding guys in the trenches in a line of scrimmage league like the SEC. And then just offensive line. Yeah, I mean, I think your biggest need in this class is big-time offensive linemen. You've got a chance to land a couple on their visits over the next couple weeks that I know you said we'll get into a little bit later. But you've got multiple blue-chip offensive linemen that are going to be on campus over the next couple weeks. You have to close on some of them.
And what are your thoughts? What's this you said earlier, with their smoke, their fire, with the smoke on the guys that were being crystal balled? Have you heard much with those, with the Amar Jacksons, the Zay Mincies, the TJ Moore?
Yeah, so Amir Jackson, I think the smoke there, or the crystal ball predictions, or whatever came in today, is just a matter of, one, Florida being in a good spot prior to Georgia landing Jaden Riddell. And now Georgia has landed
dogs.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Now Georgia has landed 2 tight ends, I think, in the last 2 or 3 days. So I think it's a matter of just that class filling up before Amir Jackson made his decision. So it kind of defaults to Florida. Not that he's choosing Florida because he can't go to Georgia. I think Florida has really done a great job recruiting him. They were one of the first big-time schools to offer him. It was Florida, then Georgia shortly after, and he's picked up a lot more since then. I think Florida stands to be in a great spot with him, and I know they want 2 tight ends in this class. So I think Amir Jackson's going to be one of them.
And
go ahead. No, go ahead. Sorry. No,
how do you
please.
think Callaway's done so far since stepping in? Have you had much with him and being the tight end
I've
coach?
heard a lot of great feedback on Callaway. Tight end position's not really a sexy position to begin with.
Sure.
But I've heard a lot of really good feedback. I know the guys at UF really like him. They were really happy when he got the job as tight ends coach. And From what I've seen thus far, on the recruiting trail, though tight end's not a really big-time position that's talked about, he's made headway with guys like Amir Jackson, guys like Walter Matthews, guys like Eric Canner. So he's got a couple of guys that are going to be on campus in the next couple weeks, and he's going to try to close the class with 2 of them.
I love it. And anything on Zay Mincy, obviously another safety to the class with Xavier Filsamy and then TJ Moore. Wide receivers, we have one finally. I felt like we've been a little behind the ball with just the noise, right? There's been a ton of noise, and I feel like we haven't closed the door. Same thing with offensive linemen. What are your thoughts on those 2 guys?
Yeah, so Zay Mincy is a fantastic player, man. I actually think they like him at cornerback more than I think they like him at safety. He plays boundary corner at the high school level. Really good length, really good size. And somebody that I think Florida has a great shot at. There's 3 players at Mainland that Florida has offered. Obviously, his teammates are LJ McCray, which is a big-time defensive line target for the Gators, and then newest defense, or one of the newer defensive back offers. I think his name is pronounced Isaiah Shine. Just a recent offer by Corey Raymond. So 3 guys at that school that all have offers. Zay Mincy and LJ McCray obviously being the 2 big ones that I think Florida's in a good spot for with both of them. And then TJ Moore is one of my favorite wide receivers in this class. I pounded the table about Isaiah Williams for quite a while before he committed to Florida. I've kind of done the same about TJ Moore. TJ Moore is somebody that was a 3-star just before Florida offered him. I watched his film and I was like, man, this kid is a stud. He's in Tampa. Florida needs to go all in. Shortly after that, I don't know if they listened to the podcast or whatever I was doing, but hey, they offered him about a week later. It's clearly I'm clearly the reason he got offered.
Billy's a big fan of the show. Big fan.
Yeah, but yeah, the kid's an absolute stud, man. And Florida has done a really good job of recruiting him. He visits Clemson this upcoming weekend. June 2nd this upcoming weekend, or the weekend after? Sorry, weekend after.
Yeah, it's June 2nd.
Yeah, so he visits Clemson on June 2nd. If Florida can weather that storm, because I know Clemson is the other school at the top of his list, if they can weather that storm and get him on campus June 9th, I really like where Florida stands in that recruitment.
I love hearing the Zay Mincy too, because with it being a 4-star safety, we have 2 safeties committed so far. But if the recruit him as a cornerback, that kind of changes the game, regardless of what On3 247 has him slated as. if they all see themselves having a home, that's what's important. Because again, the big question mark is like, hey, do we keep all these guys? If someone going to want to leave and we land them, well, if they understand where they're going to be playing, regardless of what the recruiting sites are saying, then it kind of puts things to rest a little bit. So it was refreshing hearing that because I hadn't heard that. I haven't heard that at all. So next we have. I'm calling it Jubilee Weekend. I wanted to get like a fun name for it, so I asked AI to give me a creative name, and this is what it pumped out. I'm not gonna think that I was this creative, because I mean everyone's talking about it. I mean there's videos about it. Like I don't remember seeing videos last year about a recruiting weekend. I was like, yo, like shit's coming. And even before precast, Connor was like, it's gonna be big. And so like it's just at a point now, like I've been saying it's gonna be big, but at this point I'm like, well, what's going to happen? Besides just a lot of kids going to be there, are we going to get a commit? Is it just the fact of the sheer volume of talent that's going to be there? Is that what's making it big? Like, what is it, Connor? What are you hearing? What are your thoughts and opinion about it? Just talk to us. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, man. I think first and foremost, just sheer volume of talent that's going to be coming through Gainesville is as much or more than we've seen since really the Urban Meyer era. June 2nd has 16 official visitors locked in right now, highlighted by 5-star, well, depending on the site that you look at, 5-star commits, Xavier Filsaime, DJ Lagway, and then, of course, the ever-talked-about Jeremiah Smith
Who
will be on campus.
Yeah. Who's that?
Yeah. Who's that? Yeah, so he's going to be on campus. Florida – I actually wrote an article about a week ago about recruits to watch or recruits to know for the wide receiver position. Of course, you cannot write a piece like that without mentioning Jeremiah Smith. And I say that to say this. I quoted one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite shows, The Office, and the great Michael Scott quoted Wayne Gretzky with himself
How
by
does Connor
saying,
feel about Bones going to Gar? Any rumors about
you miss
this?
100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. So Florida is 100% taking their shot with Jeremiah Smith. Now, whether that turns into anything, that remains to be seen. But obviously they've got, and I'll just go down the list to kind of drum up some excitement. You've got Jordan Ross, who's an edge from Alabama that Florida has made up a lot of ground on. Jonathan Eccles, who's an athlete that's committed to Tennessee from IMG Academy. His sister actually plays softball at the University of Florida. And then, of course, you have Jamari Howard, Chris Jones, LJ McCray, all guys that Florida has a really good shot at. Chris Jones is somebody that I think...
What do you think of Dylan Evans, Jamari Howard, Ethan
Sorry,
Callaway,
it's like
and Chris Jones?
I'm hearing that in my ear,
NFL?
and it's kind of messing with me a little bit.
Yeah.
But Chris Jones is somebody that I think could pull himself off the market during his official visit. Another fantastic linebacker in a fantastic class. And then, of course, you have Dalen Evans, Jalen Crawford, Ethan Callaway, DeAndre Robinson, my guy Isaiah Williams, local product Kendall Jackson, and then defensive tackle from IMG Academy, Jaden Jackson, who I'm a big fan of and think is very underrated. So Jubilee weekend is going to be packed.
Glad to catch
and
on.
I think you could see a commit or two from that weekend. I think with Florida using 40 official visits during the month of June, which is very ambitious because you only get, I think it's about 56 or 58 official visits for an entire cycle that you can use for prospects. So for you to use approximately 75% of those in the month of June, you have to be able to hit on these kids. You have to close. So I think if they're doing this, they feel pretty good. And I think you have to end the month of June with somewhere around 13 to 15 commitments. So that means the next...
On top of what we already have.
On top of what... No. In total.
Okay, so about five to six more then.
So you're talking 5 to 7 more commitments over the course of the next month. And if that does indeed happen, you're talking about a very, very good class going into the summer. And
Friday Night Lights, which I've been
should be up there in the top 5 if they land some of the guys that I think they have a really good shot at landing.
And I've been adamant about having a top class going into Friday Night Lights. I felt like last year we were a little behind the 8 ball going into
Yes.
Friday Night Lights, and we were playing catch up. And we
Well,
need to
and
be,
Friday Night Lights this year is a month earlier. Friday Night
So
Lights is June 23rd this year.
Okay, it is June 23rd. Okay, damn, I'm gonna miss it then. Right.
I thought it was still in July, but I guess
Yeah.
not. So
Damn, I thought it was in July. That sucks. I think we're gonna be.
because usually you have June, then you have that dead period, and then at the end of the July you got Friday Night Lights. But I guess
No,
they're doing it
I will not be.
different
I can make it. I can make it. All right.
Yeah, they've decided to move it up this year.
Okay. So a couple things. So I think yes, important. It's important to lock some guys in. So Friday Night Lights probably is going to be a commitment night, possibly two. If you're expecting 5 to 7 in this next month, which also means that I need to iron my spacesuit and have that ready to go, which is important. I'll make sure the
Dry
spaceship
clean
is blowing up as well. But love hearing that. The other part I want to ask and kind of extend. Did you want to say anything, Dave? I kind of cut you off there. My bad.
No. I just said make sure you go to the dry cleaner, man.
Oh, you were confirming that. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So you're expecting? Are you expecting this weekend for any commits, or do you really think it's going to be kind of just the anchor to get things rolling? Or what are you? Or my?
You're talking about Jubilee weekend.
Correct. That's the weekend that I'm referring to. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me scroll down the list again. I'm sorry.
I really hope that this weekend
it's a
starts
fantastic
trending.
list. First and foremost, yeah. I mean, so I mentioned Chris Jones as somebody that I think could pull himself off the market on that weekend.
Okay.
He has Florida's official visit locked in for June 2nd, and then the only other official visit that he has locked in right now is 2 weeks later for Georgia. I think if Florida pushes all the right buttons on that visit, they can get him to commit and then cancel that Georgia visit. Dalen Evans, I think, is one to watch too. He's committed to Texas A&M. The only official visit that he has locked in right now is to the University of Florida. I'm sorry, University of Florida, then TCU the weekend after, and Georgia Tech the weekend after that. Another one of those things where he's talked really highly about Florida. I've talked to him, just a couple messages exchanged, and he said he grew up watching and liking Florida all the way out in Texas. They've done a great job recruiting him.
This is
Sean
Dalen Evans,
Spencer has
right?
been fantastic. Yeah, Dalen Evans.
Dalen Evans. Okay.
And he's somebody that I think if they do the right things, they could probably get him to pull the trigger and flip. But I would say probably one on that first weekend, but you're really laying the groundwork for the course of the next month or so.
Yeah, my personal opinion is like you talk about those official visits, you better hit. You better hit this month, or you're in some deep doo-doo the rest of the way. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You know what? I've got the Billy Napier video already saved as drafts on Twitter, so that way it's already ready to go. So anybody that enjoys that Billy Napier video, hopefully I can show it like 8 times.
Hopefully,
man.
Dave's finger goes numb.
So they proved last year, even with some of the outside of football aspects being a bit of a mess on the back end, that they could still close on some big time guys over the summer. You're talking about Cam James, Kelby Collins, guys like that they were able to land commitments from in the months of June and July. So I think things have gotten better on the back end with Florida. So I'm optimistic as far as them being able to close on some of these guys over the course of the next month. But like Dave and I have both said already, they have to because they're burning a lot of official visits very early.
I love it. We got a few super chats, and then Connor, we're gonna let you go, man, because you've been phenomenal tonight, man. I really appreciate you. Wes has super chat. I see you, Sorrel. I'm gonna get to you, Bubba. You've answered some of these questions. He says, "What do you think about Evans?" You just went over that. But what about Jamari Howard, Ethan Callaway, and you mentioned Chris Jones? So what about Howard and Ethan Callaway? What are you hearing? What are your thoughts on those two guys?
Yeah, so Jamari Howard is somebody that Florida's had really high on their board for quite a while. It really looks like it's going to be an in-state battle, Florida State, Miami, for him. Florida is the only in-state school that has an official visit set. Yeah, just decommitted from Michigan State, even though there is an official visit scheduled for the weekend after Florida's. I don't know that he follows through with that official visit after decommitting. So I think with Florida getting the early push with their official visit, if they push things in the, I feel like I keep saying this like a broken record. If they push the right buttons, I think he's somebody that could end up in the class. Because I know Corey Raymond is very high on him. He's very high on Corey Raymond and his ability to get guys to the next level. So Jamari Howard is somebody that I think I could realistically see in Florida's class. But it's going to be a tough battle between, I think, Miami's in there, but I think it's between Florida and Florida State right now. Ethan Callaway is somebody that I really like. I just struggle to have confidence in O-line recruiting right now. They've landed, I think, so landing Roderick Kearney last year was the highest rated offensive line recruit since Richard Garage committed to Florida. But other than him, your class wasn't super highly rated. You didn't really land a bunch of blue chip guys. Najee Harris, I think, is somebody that's very good, but he's not your top 200 type of talent. Ethan Callaway is that. And especially at offensive tackle, Florida really needs tackles. Callaway's got plenty of options. Another guy, Michael Uini, out of Texas, is an offensive tackle that's going to be visiting Florida, has a lot of options. Florida has to prove to me that they can land those blue chip offensive tackles before I'm going to sit there and say, hey, yeah, I think Florida has a really good shot to land this kid.
Why do you think Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
I was going to say there was a lot of Jay Bateman slander last cycle on the timeline, and now we have like 2 top 50 prospects. Maybe we just need to put a little bit of Rob Sales slander out there. Maybe.
Yeah, I was going to ask, why do you think the ball's being dropped? Man, I'm confused with the offensive recruiting. It doesn't make any sense on why that, especially with the talent that just got pumped into the NFL. Having 2 offensive linemen, I felt like the only product on the field, or there's 2 products on the field that were phenomenal last year, was offensive lineman and running back. Like, we should have no problem bringing those guys in. Like, what's happening? What are you hearing? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I really don't know where the disconnect is. They're doing a good job. Like, obviously, they got Samson Okunlola on campus last year.
Yeah, they get him there.
And we're far and away the leader when he left campus. Obviously, we know extenuating circumstances happened in that situation. And he ended up at Miami. But when they get these kids on campus, all bets are off. The biggest thing is just getting them on there and then closing. Yep. And I don't know where the disconnect is in the closing portion of that, because they're getting them on campus. They're really doing a good job of recruiting these kids, and then they leave campus uncommitted, and then something happens. Now, we're still fairly early into this cycle. I guess you can use early loosely because we're right in the meat of it when you get to that summer period. But I don't know where the disconnect is, and I'm hoping to see a change or an improvement on that end of the recruiting, because really that's the biggest question mark in recruiting. I think obviously running backs doing a fantastic job recruiting. Jabbar Jaluke's been fantastic. Billy Napier and Ryan O'Hara recruiting quarterbacks like crazy. Wide receiver last year was fantastic. I think Billy Gonzalez is going to pick up where they left off and land some big time guys as well. It's really just, and linebacker was the biggest question last year. Jay Bateman's answered that question, like David said, with 2 top 50 guys, probably another top 150, and yep. I think they're looking to add another. So we could see how that goes. So really, I think the biggest question mark is offensive line, and I can't give you an answer as to where the disconnect is, unfortunately.
That's why when I said offensive lineman, I said there's so many out there, and I cannot pinpoint anybody. That's a problem.
Yeah, there is. I feel like the name changes every week of who we're going after. It's definitely all over the place. One last thing, Bubba, if you don't mind, is Chris Sorley says, how do you feel about Bowens going to Georgia? Chauncey Bowens, Kirby has been flying helicopters, private jets, buses, yachts, everything to this young man's school, and now he has an official visit. Should we be nervous? Is everything going to be okay? What are we doing here? Calm us down a little bit.
I mean, anytime Kirby flies a helicopter to a commit school, you should probably be nervous, especially at the running back position. They've put running backs in the NFL about as good as anybody has in the last 5 to 10 years. The one thing I will say when it comes to Chauncey Bowens, Jabbar Jaluke identified him early. He committed early. He really values that relationship. Okay. He really likes the University of Florida. He's a big-time academic kid. I think the Georgia visit is a visit out of respect for how hard Georgia has been recruiting him. Florida's going to have to fight to keep him in the class. There's no doubt about that. But I do like Florida's ability to keep him in the class because of that relationship with Coach Jaluke, with Coach Napier. and his relationship with the other commits in the class, like DJ Lagway.
Would you say it's going to be a dogfight?
Liam Andrew.
I do think that
then
that is an
Trade, any
accurate
news?
statement, Shelton. Yes.
And this too, you got to expect that Kirby Smart's going to go after some of the best players, no matter where they're committed at, even if they're committed at Florida. And you're going to have to beat them on the trail. Like, this is going to be a battle between Georgia and Florida's going to have to keep Chauncey Bowens in the class if that's what they want. I mean, if Kirby takes him, you better have one hell of a backup plan, because they're not stopping, and you're going to need at least top 5 to beat Georgia, because it's just it's getting to a point to where Georgia's starting to stockpile number one talent everywhere.
No, yeah.
And for you,
you're
to
100%
you're going to have
correct.
to recruit top 5. The top 10 classes aren't going to get it done.
No, yeah. Well, listen, and Nick Delatorre from On3 said it really well on a lot of the stuff that he talks about. You could be top 5 in the country in recruiting and be third in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So Georgia and Alabama are always going to be in the top 3 pretty much every year. So if you're in the top 5, you're third in the SEC by default. And then you've got guys like Texas A&M, Tennessee starting to kind of pick it up in recruiting. LSU always recruits really well because they have the best recruiting advantage in the history of college football by keeping kids home in the state of Louisiana. But yeah, I mean, if you want to compete on the field with the big dogs, no pun intended, you have to be willing to go up against them on the recruiting trail. And guys like Chauncey Bowens are part of that. The good news is Florida is the leader in the doghouse. Keep using dog puns here.
We're on a roll here, boys.
But Florida got into his recruitment early, identified him early. Jaluk prioritized him at the top of the board very early, and that's huge. It's a lot harder for a kid to flip his commitment than it is for a kid to tell you, no, I'm not committed yet. I'm going to go here. So Florida is in a good situation there, but they're going to have to compete with the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States, the Clemsons of the world if they want to get back to that kind of on-field product that Florida fans so much loved back in the day and are so yearning for.
Yeah, and even Shane Beamer's doing a pretty decent job there at South Carolina.
Everybody's turning up the heat, man. That's how I keep telling people. Like, everyone's getting all worked up. Like, Billy's not doing this. Bro, everybody is pedal to the metal and bringing out all the fire. So, look, what's good is that everyone's going to have a healthy class, which tells me it's going to resort to coaching. Who's going to be able to put the best product on the field and develop these guys? And that's where they're going to have to be separated. So, look, do we have the right guy for that? We'll find out. And I think the recruiting is, as long as we can just be within that top 5, top 4, and just be kind of with everybody else, the rest of it will take care of itself. But we can't be finishing 13th or 14th. That's just not going to work. But again, Connor, appreciate you coming on, man. If you want to tweet out Jubilee #Jubilee Weekend and get this thing on like a trend, I mean, by all means, you can take it and run with it. We should all start, you guys in the chat, tweet it out, #Jubilee Weekend. It's going to be the next hottest thing in the next week. So make sure you get on it early. But Connor, please, I got your link in the description to your Twitter so they can go follow you and go see your articles and just be a part of, you constantly communicating and saying your opinion. But tell them how else they can follow you and where else they can listen to you as well.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's always fun coming on here, chopping it up with you guys, and it's very nice to be appreciated by y'all, because I never really thought I'd have this platform or this kind of opportunity a few years ago when I first got started into this stuff. But I obviously you can go read the stuff that myself and my coworkers put out at all Gators on FN, Fan Nation, Zach Goodall, Brandon Carroll, fantastic guys. They put out great content. And then if you don't already, please go follow me on Twitter. It's just at Connor Clark. Connor with an E, Clark with an E.
Love, yeah. Please go show him some love, guys. I mean, he obviously comes on here and he spits out absolute gems constantly, and we appreciate it every single time you come on here, man. It's an absolute blast. These conversations are so much fun. I mean, we're an hour in, and it doesn't even feel like it. I feel like when we first started, we'd be like at 30 minutes. Like, man, I'll see you later.
I looked at my watch. I couldn't believe that it was already an hour in. It's just
cruising,
a lot of fun, man.
Which is good. It means we're having a good time. So
that's what happens when you got Hollywood on here, man.
You know what I mean, baby? I love it. Well, Connor, man, you be good, be safe. We'll definitely be in touch, and we'll look to have you on maybe after Jubilee weekend. We'll reconvene. Maybe after. Maybe are you gonna be at Friday Night Lights?
Yeah, I should be there.
All right. we'll have to definitely catch up and chalk it up for sure, man.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Be good.
Thanks,
Much
Connor.
appreciated, guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. So, guys, we have another special guest on. This is his first time being on here. You guys may recognize him. His name is Holly.
Oh,
Not Hollywood, just Holly.
Just Holly. You muted yourself, Steve.
with the Hollywood thing, I'm like,
There you go.
yeah. This is very confusing with the Hollywood thing. I just couldn't quite figure it out.
Thanks for waiting, Steve. How you been, bud? You missed you. So, guys, give Steve shit for bailing out for us for a week, but he's back. He's ready to rock and roll. We're happy to have him. We're not done. We're only halfway through, so you guys buckle up. We got another jam-packed show in store for you guys, and we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Hit the like button, show some love. If anything, just hit the like button for Steve for just sitting in the green room for an hour.
It was a hell of a show. Like you guys were crushing it here. I mean,
Harrison Sanchez says, $2. Where's Holly?
LOL.
hey, there we go. See,
There he is.
Yeah, somebody asked me in the
Sanchez
chat.
guy is my kind of fella.
I was about to say, somebody
There
asked
it
me in the
is.
chat where you were. I just said you were taking a poop.
Garrett
Oh,
Boyle, what's
yeah.
going on, man?
Well,
How you doing?
Look. Well, when we're recruiting at the level that you're recruiting, trust me, you get a little backed up. You start to get a little nervous. You know, the pipes get a
There
little,
he goes.
God, who
man.
invited this guy back? All right, boys.
you
So
guys-
we have a whole show left for you guys. I see you guys in the comments about the Gators baseball. Please keep us updated because it's tied 3-3 going into the 10th. So I want to know what's happening. But first order of business is Florida Georgia has re-signed to stay in Jacksonville, which is very interesting here for 24 and 25. The reason why it's interesting because there's a ton of noise about it not being at Florida Georgia. Or at Jacksonville. I thought for sure that it was going to be dismissed and not happen. It could be because, hey, they know after that there hasn't that noise of Jacksonville relocating because they're going to redo the stadium. So they know, well, after this, we're going to have to play at home, and then we'll reconvene after that and see how it plays out at home. That could be a possibility. But glad they re-signed the contract. Shows that they're still on board for it. Obviously, this is going to be a part of, which is interesting, a part of the new college playoff system, the 12-team playoff, the new SEC with Oklahoma and Texas. This is all going to be rolling into that, so we'll see how that plays out, but really excited to see that they were able to get that deal done. And the largest cocktail party, which is literally Steve's favorite weekend, mainly due to the fact that just it's the biggest cocktail. And he hasn't found the cocktail yet, but he hears there's a big cocktail there.
And that's why I go back every year. It's worth the literal crawl through the stadium, through the stands. It just any and everywhere you can go. Trust me, there is a cocktail out there, and damn it, I will find it.
Yeah, man.
It's big news. It's big news for the fact that we've seen a lot of noise with how. The SEC is obviously they're adding teams, right? The Big Ten, they're adding teams. And there's a lot of these lost neutral site games that there's just questions on where do these things go? Which team is going to be willing to give up a home game? Which team is going to be willing to give up a potential recruiting weekend to not have these commits or potential recruits on their campus, not on a neutral site game? So there's just been so much talk with the gravity and just the constant spinning of what it looks like is going to be just an absolute, just a battering ram of teams and conferences coming down the road, that they're looking to still push the narrative of a neutral site game. I don't know, for a lot of folks who haven't been in Jacksonville and who have never been to the cocktail party, there is a reason it is called the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. RVs start showing up on around Tuesday afternoon, and they park for a mile wide of the stadium. And then it is just people after people after people after people. And I've even heard some Florida players talk about coming up over the bridge that drops you into that stadium and just being able to look down over the river and seeing the orange and blue on one side and just the red and black on the other side. And you can just see it and to see of humans that you're going to go through. So I know a lot of neutral site games just don't get a lot of some of the maybe the push and some of the eyeballs and some of the excitement, but this one does. This one
huge.
does. Yeah, for sure. And that's
Dave?
just, for us locally, obviously. But, even, more so for another, neutral site game or a couple more that we'll talk about here in just a moment.
Yeah, it's I have only been to one of those, and that was way back in the day. But like when I went, I mean, Holly is explaining it correctly. I mean, it is just pandemonium from one side to the other end, and of course, there's Georgia and Florida fans getting along. They're all drinking. Everybody's they don't even care what side of the team that you're on or anything like that. It's everybody. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's partying, and at the same time, it's so much revenue for Jacksonville. They don't want to get rid of this. They don't want to get rid of the TIA field. They don't want to get rid of any of that. So they're going to push as hard as they can to keep it there in Jacksonville, because that's a lot of revenue loss for that city. And at the same time, man, like for I'm a traditional guy, and right now college football is changing. Some of it's for the good for me. Some of it sucks for me, but that's just my opinion. But to get rid of this game in Jacksonville, to me, would just be like it would suck. Just being a Florida Gator fan, I know Georgia fans probably think differently because it's in Jacksonville. It seems like a home game for Florida every single year.
I don't believe it does,
and I know,
dude. It's so close to Georgia, dude. It's not as much as it's not like at all.
Yeah. I know it's like
South Georgia up there.
From me to go to Athens, it's like 4 hours. For me to get to Jacksonville, it's like 4 hours. So there's not really a huge difference between, I guess, distance for me where I live in Woodstock. But I mean, Holly's right. Like I live in Georgia, and people are gone. Like that whole week, like the Florida Georgia week, like there's no traffic that whole week because people are already leaving to go to that game.
They're already gone.
Yeah,
seriously, I'm dead serious.
Between the Hedges brings up a good point. We talked with this as well. It's $5 super chat, man. I appreciate you. He says, does home away neutral rotation make sense after 2025? And that's what we talked about. Look, I wouldn't be against it being at the Swamp and Athens and then Jacksonville and then rotating like that every year. You get a little bit of everything, and then it'll make that Jacksonville game a little more sweeter, more exciting, but you also get them to come to the Swamp, which would be something that I've never seen, so that would be really cool. Playing in Athens, I've never really seen too many games in Athens because I'm not turning Georgia football on. So you know what I mean? Like it would be a different perspective for me watching a game in Athens. Like I enjoy watching Florida play at Tennessee. I think it's just an incredible stadium and incredible atmosphere. So to be able to see that atmosphere in Athens, to be able to see that atmosphere in the Swamp, I think it would be unmatched just because we've never seen it before. Well, I've never seen it. I don't think anybody in this that is a fan now has ever been a part of that. So to be able to see that and be a part of it, it would be cool. But the Jacksonville game would still be great. I think it would go back to that, and it would be a nice, refreshing take. So I wouldn't hate it. I love it being in Jacksonville every year. I wouldn't mind that either. You can't get rid of it, though. I think the only other option is to do the three-way rotation. Jacksonville has to stay a part of it at some capacity, even if it's 1-1, 2-2, 1-1. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the last time that Florida and Georgia played in the other team's respective home stadiums was when we were awarded a Jaguar team, an NFL team. We had the Jaguars come in, and the original Gator Bowl was it needed some upgrades. Let's just put it that way. It was metal bleachers and a whole lot of concrete, and not enough bathrooms, and not enough parking, and not enough things to make an NFL team want to come here. So it took a little while to build what is there now. And that was the 2 years that that Georgia and Florida played, respective home games on each other's field. Well, Jacksonville, for those who don't know, is coming up on a stadium lease, and they're looking at expanding a lot of what's around that stadium because it's right on the river. It's riverfront property, and they're trying to do a lot to make that area more fiscally viable than what it currently is. And trust me, there's a lot that could be done. Yeah. So look, even if this thing were to take a step back starting in 2025, because we know it's guaranteed for this year, we know it's guaranteed for 2024, and they just signed that contract for 2025. So, look, you may end up getting that home and home in 26, 27.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen regardless. It just depends on what happens after that.
You're going to have to.
Yeah.
You're going to have to, yep.
Moving on to some FSU talk. We talked about it last week without Holly here. look, it was actually refreshing. A lot of FSU guys commented on it. They enjoyed Dave and I's banter. Although we were showing some love for FSU. We even took our jabs. But look, the FSU fans appreciated it, and we appreciated their comments as much as the Florida fans probably didn't like it. Look, Steve's the FSU fan. We got to give the man his time and he has 60 seconds to talk about FSU. We talked last week about how well they had performed after landing Keon Coleman in the transfer portal. They have been crushing it. But what sucks as a Florida fan is they're doing a great job in recruiting. And to what Connor said earlier, to Nick Del Torre's reference, and we've talked about Uncle Lou as well, you could finish third, fourth, or fifth in overall recruiting, but be third in the SEC. You could finish 7th, 8th, or 9th in overall recruiting and be first in the ACC, which is, for Florida State, that's all you're going after. And it's not a jab. That's just facts. That's just how the cookie crumbles. And look, there's an advantage there. And at that point, you're 7 and 8. If you're in the championship game, all you got to do is sometimes just make it there. At that point, it gets pretty even keel. So your talent's a little bit better. The road's a little bit easier. It is what it is. We can debate that, the conference debate, another day. But FSU is coming for a top 5 class right now. They're on an absolute burner. And I hate saying it, but with that, I'm going to pass over to Steve and let him kind of ramble on about this disgustingness we've got going on here.
Well, look, I am certainly no Connor or Soder. I mean, these guys know their stuff. They know these kids. They've watched them play since they were in high school. I am but a mere shepherd of some information. Now, look, you guys have a Jubilee or whatever in the world that you are thinking to call this thing.
Jubilee.
Now, look, FSU doesn't quite have that type of capacity coming up. However, just coming up this week, we do have 5 recruits coming in. I'm not saying that these guys are locks by any stretch of the imagination. If I had to look at it, I'd say we're probably 50-50 on the majority of them. However, coming up on the 16th of June, we are bringing in Charles Lester III, who is a top 5, top 8 overall commit. He's, in my opinion, the number 1 overall corner yet uncommitted, and that does include Jamari Howard. I believe him and Jamari Howard are probably 1A, 1B, depending on who you ask. Probably Jamari Howard and Charles Lester. But we also have B.J. Gibson coming in. He's a wide receiver commit, 4-star guy. We've got Ricky Knight. Ricky Knight was a 3-star kid that was going through some camps out in Texas. He was here, there, got picked up by some scouts that all of a sudden started to see some burst in this kid, started to see some, as Shelton likes to say, the dog in him. But he was really just making plays out there. He was able to just one-on-one with running backs out of the flare. He was able to keep up with a slot, and he was able to keep on the long route, on the go route, with a wide receiver that may have been a little bit bigger than him. Look, he's moved up in rankings. It looks more and more like he's starting to trend towards Miami, unfortunately, but he is going to be on campus on the 16th.
Telling me FSU has 3 good players. Can
we got a super chat from Harlan Harris here, FSU fan. He says, chat telling me FSU has 3 good players. Can we clear the air? They're trying to get me out of here. I'm all alone in the chat. You're fine. You're fine, Harlan. They're not as bad as you think they are. Wait till Daniel comes back in here. You're muted. You muted yourself, Holly.
Hey, well, for those FSU fans that do watch our show, there's plenty of Miami slander, especially coming from me. So they'll enjoy that too.
You muted yourself again. Steve,
you're muted.
Steve. I don't know what you're hitting, bud. You're muted. I don't know. You hit something on your computer, Steve. You're muted, bud guy. It's on. It's from your computer. I don't know. You hit something. It's not your mic.
Well, I'll go into some of the visitors though. He was talking about Ricky Knight. Ricky Knight, actually, he runs track too, so he is a pretty good speedster. I don't have his 100-meter times here exactly, but they do have Alex January as in the month, visiting too, and Kevin Levy, a cornerback from West Palm Beach, Florida, and he's currently trending for Florida State. He's a 3-star guy, ranked 180, I guess, or not 180, 860th, and I guess that's what on 3 has him as, but they really do have a really, really good visitor weekend on the 6th or June the 23rd. There's going to be 17 guys already officially visiting, but I think
what's important about this weekend too is they have Landon Thomas and Luke, their quarterback and tight end, the number 1 tight end in the country, being landed, obviously already committed. Luke already committed, with Jonathan Daniels, offensive tackle, who Florida has been heavy on, But right now, it looks like it's between LSU and Florida State. He's from Pensacola. That's his area. On3 has him at 89% to Florida State. And we talked about Nazir Johnson. He's there. Right now, it's 46-40, so it's pretty close, but he'll be visiting that weekend, defensive lineman. A lot of these kids that are visiting, Dylan Stevenson, Ricardo Jones, Micah Danzy, James Madison, all these kids that I just mentioned are all trending towards Florida State. And having them all there at the same time, I mean, look, I hate talking about it. This is supposed to be Steve's segment, but I love how he has a technical difficulties. But look, as much as we want to talk shit and kind of throw the shade here, they're doing a good job. And they're doing a good job with teaming guys up and having this 1-2 punch with Landon Thomas and Luke, their quarterback and tight end, visiting at the same time with these other guys that are already leaning that way. I wouldn't be shocked if they landed a few studs there on that weekend. And that's the weekend of Friday Night Lights, mind you, for the Florida Gators. So,
yeah, they've got 8 guys in the top 250 that are trending their way visiting that weekend. 2 of these guys look to be in the top 150. There's 1 or 2 guys in the top 200, and the other 3 are like top 250. And I mean, they're all trending Florida State. That's not the ones that are already committed. I mean, of course, Landon Thomas, he went to Georgia. You flipped him back over to Florida State, so that was a big feather in the cap for Norvell. I'm pretty sure he's not leaving at all now, and he is the number 1 tight end. I know that they said Georgia's was the number 1 tight end, but
it's frustrating when they do that. I'm like, dude, like you can't have like I feel like I see the number 1 go like every week. I'm like, somebody else was number 1 last week. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and I'm not the biggest Florida State expert, but that is a really, really good list of players coming in on June the 23rd. But of course, I mean, it's going to be a big weekend or a big month for both of us. I mean, Florida and Florida State. So you might be seeing a whole lot of commitments rolling for Florida State and Florida at the same time. So,
yeah, we might have a segment who won the month of June.
Right, exactly.
At the end of this, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I still don't even know where Holly's at. He's probably over there camping out. So we'll go to what are we talking about next? Are we going to wait here for Holly or?
I'm trying to see. He said I kicked him out, but I didn't kick him out. It looks like UF baseball is in trouble. Was this the first game of the SEC tournament?
Yeah, I think they're playing Alabama, right?
Oh, jeez. Is it one and done, or it's a series? It should be a series, right? We can move on to the Michigan State versus Penn State. I mean, Steve wanted to talk about this too, but I don't know. Can't just keep sitting around. So, Michigan State.
We got 200 people watching. We can't sit around.
Yeah, we got to keep moving, baby. Michigan State versus Penn State. So they have set a schedule for Friday night. I was talking to Steve. I don't know if this is confirmed or not, but is Florida State not playing on Black Friday again?
I think they do. Florida
That's
State
what I thought. That was a new thing that we started, correct? Like it's the new. For now, it's going to be the new schedule. So,
unfortunately,
Michigan State and Penn State, they have now scheduled a neutral site game, and we got finished talking about Florida Georgia and the possibility of it, going away from that. And look, our schools wanting to do more neutral games because of recruiting. Well, they just scheduled one at Ford Field on Black Friday, which tells us that. I don't think these neutral sites are going away because I think they realize the fans love the neutral site games. It's a good time. It's a change of atmosphere. As much as we love Penn State and having the whiteout games and playing at home, those are great.
It's actually got us on Saturday for that game.
10 for keeping it real.
What's that?
I'll keep tuning in for sure.
It says November 25th, Saturday.
For Penn State, Michigan State? Oh, no, for Florida State? So it moved back to Saturday.
Unless ESPN has got it.
That's what he was saying. He said they moved back, so this game took the slot for Friday night. For Black Friday was the Michigan State versus Penn State game.
Yeah.
Okay. So interesting to see, but look, also a point as well that a lot of people were thinking that we were getting away from neutral site games. That these guys are now adding a neutral site game in the Big Ten, which I think they're healthy. I think it's good to have them kind of rotate and cycle through. Maybe not every year, just like we were just saying, rotate it every so often. Florida Georgia is a little bit different. But I love the neutral site games. Florida State and LSU, they're playing at a neutral site these last 2 years. Those games excite me, especially when you have teams that don't play each other too often. I think it fits, especially for those games. Put it in a neutral site, let them kind of duke it out. Also, too, because home field advantage is huge. So when you have non-conference teams play each other kind of on the one-off, like LSU versus Florida State. Now, they're a little biased because one was in Florida, the other one's going to be in LSU, so it's a little bit of a home game. But you give the chance that it is as a neutral site, so you kind of get to see the best of the best. Like, hey, there's no home field advantage here. We're just letting these two teams go at it, kind of like the playoffs. So it gives you a little bit of insight to the playoffs. So I enjoy it. I'm excited. I think it'll be great. I think just the viewership will be exciting to see. If the Black Friday game, Michigan State versus Penn State at Ford Field, I think it's gonna be great.
Yeah, and I like neutral site games just based on the fact that like nobody's got crowd momentum on either side. So you're having to play the best that you can. You're having one side of the field spit at you or whatever they do, cuss at you, and the other side of the field is cheering you on. So it's like it's pretty cool, those neutral site games. I kind of like them, especially when you begin the year with them, like the Florida State LSU one from last year. I mean, it was pretty cool. Obviously, there was a lot of pandemonium that went on that game. It was a close game. Florida State pulled it off. But I enjoy the neutral site games. But, I mean, you could go back to, I guess, the college football playoff, whatever, Georgia versus TCU. We already knew how that game was going to go before it even started. Of course, those TCU fans were out the door by halftime, but at least they were there supporting the team, and there was nobody could come back and say, oh, well, it was a home game. And if they would have played at our stadium, it would have been different. And not when you're getting blown out 50 points. You can kind of argue that, but I kind of like it, man. There's no excuses to a neutral site game. You can't say, oh, there was home field or this, that, or the other. You just play the game.
I love it. And a quick super chat from Harlan again, man. $10. I appreciate your support, man. He goes, another 10 for keeping it real. I'll keep tuning in for sure. Love the non-biased guys. Well, appreciate that, man. Glad we were able to grab another fan, man. Much love, Bubba. I don't know what's going on with Steve, boys. I really don't know what's happening here. The buddy was dialed in. We were ready to rock and roll. I don't know. The next segment are on him, and we got over under, which it's his topic. I've got this or that. I guess you and I can just knock out this or that. You want to just go ahead and do that real quick?
Since
he's not here. All right, boys and girls, you know we have our new favorite segment called This or That. Let's get it. Yeah, we had to change the song because of copyright issues. But this or that. This segment is pretty simple. It's either this or do you think it's going to be that? A little bit of this or a little bit of that. Dave, go ahead and go with the first this or that, and we'll go from there.
Who will have, and I remember sending this to you, who passes for more yards at the end of the season in the Pac-12? Is it going to be Bo Nix or Cameron Rising? Now, you got to remember, Cameron Rising may not be healthy at the beginning of the season. I'm pretty sure they're going to try to play him against Florida anyway, but that could be a factor when you're thinking about Utah and Cameron Rising. But who would you pick? Yeah, you go first since I asked the question. You go ahead.
Cam Rising or Bo Nix? I think Cam Rising, I know he lost Kincaid, but he still has the other tight end. I can't think of his name right now.
Keithy,
who obviously both those guys were vacuums for him last year. I think Bo Nix really found his rhythm towards the end of the year. Coming in against Georgia was a complete, it really kind of set him back, I think, a few games. I think they're going to get off. I think they're going to get off to a hot start. I think Cam Rising's going to have a great year, pretty solid year. I think the Pac-12 is going to be a lot tougher for both of those teams. They're obviously both in the Pac-12. I think Oregon will have a better season, and I think Bo Nix be in his campaign year. Same with Cam Rising, but Bo Nix is a lot more to prove, in my opinion. He's more of that. There's been a ton of hype around him since he's been in college. Cam Rising's kind of like that old guy, like that Stetson Bennett. He's kind of just been hanging around. I think he's better than Stetson. Let's not get it twisted. I think he'll have more value coming into the NFL. But Bo Nix has been that guy that has had a ton of eyes on him this entire time. I think Nix is going to have a really good year.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm picking Bo Nix on this one just based on the fact that, like, obviously when he was at Auburn, he wasn't the greatest. We all know that. Did he have a good supporting cast with him? Not really. There was flashes when they played, I think it was Georgia a couple years back, where, I mean, he was tossing bombs on these wide receivers and they weren't even catching the ball. They kept dropping the ball, and there was a couple of times where they could have had some touchdowns, and he just got kind of screwed out of the whole ordeal. But, when he went to Oregon, obviously, the first game of the season didn't really go that well for him. It didn't go that well for a lot of people against that defense. But as the season went on, you started seeing, okay, well, maybe change was good for Bo Nix. I mean, he's upgraded a little bit in talent compared to the competition that he has.
Yep.
Already a 5-star quarterback coming out of high school. He's proven that he can chuck the football, at least with a little bit of, lesser competition, but at least, he's still able to get it done. I just don't see Cameron Rising being able to, I don't even know if it's to really pass more yards than he can, but just being the better overall quarterback in the Pac-12 there. So I'd have to go with Bo Nix as well.
Good stuff. What else you got, big guy?
I had got, let's see, because I remember I sent you 2 of these 'cause I was thinking of earlier today. Who has the better offensive line class by the end of the cycle? South Carolina or Georgia? Look at South Carolina's class right now. They got 2 offensive linemen in the top 50. They got another offensive lineman, I believe, close to the top 250 as well. Georgia really doesn't have anybody yet, but you know they're going to get some people. You just don't know what kind of people they're going to get and how many they're going to load up on.
So am I going first, or do you want to go first?
You go first, buddy.
Yeah, so South Carolina, we've talked about it a handful of times, has done a phenomenal job getting the ball rolling. I know South Carolina has already landed Cam Pringle. He was the number 1 offensive tackle at one point. I think
Georgia's got one guy ranked 607, right? And they got two offensive tackles, one ranked 950, the other one ranked 607. So
yeah, Marcus Harrison at 606. Yeah. South Carolina though have 3 already, with Cam Pringle being their highest rated player. He's number 2 now on his position for offensive tackles. But at the time when he committed, he was number 1. I remember because we were involved with that. The second being Blake Franks. He's a 3-star. And then where is
Josiah Thompson?
Josiah Thompson, their second guy. So right now, how it's trending, and I just think with the amount of offensive linemen that are leaning at other schools, I think South Carolina finds themselves in a really good position. But it doesn't take much to land 1 5-star to take over that South Carolina class. I think with the talent that Georgia has, with Dylan Raiola, I know they're going to steal a wide receiver, a top 5 wide receiver. It's bound to happen. They just flipped the kid from Tennessee, the running back. They're obviously going after Chauncey Bowens. They're going to put together a healthy class. It's Georgia. It's inevitable. I think South Carolina's in a healthy place, but I see them landing probably 1 5-star offensive tackle, and then they'll land 2 or 3 healthy 4-stars. I don't see South Carolina pulling in any more 4-stars. I could be wrong. I'm not saying that. I could 100% be wrong. I just don't see South Carolina pulling too anymore. I think their focus is going to be on other positions.
Yeah, domino effect is kind of real in recruiting and in college football. If you recruit really well at a certain position where there's a big group of guys, say like defensive line, offensive line, the other defensive linemen and offensive linemen want to go play for that. They're just like, oh, wow, I'm going to be working beside this guy here. Let me come here. But at the same time, you got Georgia, who's won 2 national championships in a row. They've proven that they can recruit great at offensive line. They've ran the ball down people's throats throughout the years. Probably not recently, because Stetson Bennett was actually a good decisive decision-making quarterback, but they've proven that they can recruit elite when they want somebody they can take them. And who knows, they could flip a guy from South Carolina. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it could happen. To me, I think South Carolina has a chance to have a good offensive line class and keep those guys in, but I just can't deny the recruiting chops of Kirby Smart and the way that he's recruiting. So I'd have to go Georgia with that one too, but you never know, man. When you got recruiting momentum in a certain position of a group of guys like that, things start happening. So we'll see.
All right, real quick before we move on, we'll do one more. It looks like, did we just win baseball?
Yeah, Florida won. Home run in the game.
Steve figured out how to use his damn computer again. Guys, the guy's killing me, boys. Gators won?
There we are. My gosh, kids.
God,
yeah, they did.
You don't want me around here.
I'm checking it out right now. Twitter's going crazy.
Steve. That was you, bro. I knew you were gonna try to put this on me, bro. Hey, so we've gone through a few topics while you were away, big guy. I had to reconfigure the show. I didn't know what the hell was going on with you. So Harlan, our FSU guy, appreciated our FSU segment. We finished without you. We did you justice again. The Braves just won 7-6. Big game, boys.
There you go.
First game of the SEC tournament. Let's go.
There you go. I'm glad we beat Alabama, by the way.
Wow, what a game. Let's go. Love the chat. Appreciate you guys giving us the update. Let's go. Let's get us to 100 likes for that, boys. We need 11 more. Let's get there. Let's do one more this or that for Steve. Let Steve get in there, and then we're going to go into our Steve segment. We already did Michigan State, Penn State, Steve. Sorry, bud, but we're going to do over-under and then the Penn State conversation. Cool beans?
Yeah, Florida ended it in the bottom of the 11th.
Wow, what a game.
I think Holly's frozen. No, he's not.
I think Steve's still trying to figure out his computer. All right, do the last this or that, Dave. Let's rock, baby.
Only had 2, remember?
Only 2. All right. Well, that's all we got for this or that then. I thought you had one more. All right, Stevie, you ready to rock and roll for over-under, big guy?
I don't think he can hear us.
Steve.
This is gonna be this whole tribute show. At the end of the show, it's gonna be CPR for Steve. Let's see how much CPR we can give Steve, so he can come on the show. We can do over and under.
Steve, you hear us?
I don't think he can hear anything.
Oh my gosh.
Here. How about this? Let's do sign language. How about that?
Steve, can you hear us?
So we can talk about this while Steve's getting ready and trying to figure things out. USF is going to get their own stadium, Shelton.
Yeah. That's been in the talk for a little bit, though.
It is. It
Good for them, though.
And it's going to be before Miami because John Ruiz promised them a stadium before all that. But you know how that goes.
Can you hear us, Steve?
Steve. You know how Jerry Springer goes?
All right. We're going to move on, and hopefully he'll figure it out. I don't know what's going on with him over there.
Yeah.
Dion versus Pitt's head coach, Pat, what is it, Narduzzi, attacks Dion. Can you hear us, Steve?
No.
All right, whatever. So these comments were made, and obviously people are going all over the place with it. I want to read you the comments, and then we're going to kind of break down, because it leads into more just with what's going on with the transfer portal, what's happening. It's a lot to unpack. So this is what he said. That's not the way it's meant to be, Narduzzi said. That's not what the rule intended to be. It was not to overhaul your roster. We'll see how it works out, but that, to me, looks bad on college football coaches across the country. The reflection is on one guy right now, but when you look at it overall, those kids that have moms and dads and brothers and sisters and goals in life, I don't know how many of those 70 that left really wanted to leave, or they were kicked in the butt to get out. So everyone obviously has their opinion on that. They're saying it's a shot at Dion, whatever it may be. I think the quote was taken a little out of context. Is he referring to Dion into this? Absolutely. Is it a negative shot? I think it's more so he's just talking about the situation at hand, and Dion is just, taking full advantage of what's happening. And again, completely flipping his roster. Those are the rules in place. And obviously the talks are starting to come out. Should there be a cap? Should there be this? I don't know. You could talk about that left and right all day long, right? The fact of the matter is there is no rule currently. So you have somebody who came into the situation and goes, look, here's what's happening here. I'm going to try to expose this as much as I possibly can. Here's what we're going to do. Do you blame the person for exposing it? Or do you blame the rules?
No, he's my hero. No,
Come on.
No, I mean, look, it happens at every school. A head coach will go up to a player and say, hey, look, dude, it's not working out here. It's easier with the transfer portal right now, because if there was no transfer portal, coaches wouldn't be able to do it. But with the transfer portal the way that it is, it's easier for a coach to be like, hey, it's not working out for you. Maybe you're better off elsewhere. And Dion, he's going out on social media, on videos, acting like, oh, I'm kicking these guys out. You got to roll. What did he say? You got to go out with the old and in with the new, or just being very arrogant about it. And it's just like, look, these kids do have parents. They don't like to see that. And eventually it could come back and screw them when it comes back to recruiting. They'll be like, do you want to play for this guy? Because if you mess up or something happens, it's going to be all over the internet. You're going to be all on television. I don't know, man. I kind of agree with it, the way that Pat Narduzzi talked about it. I believe, the way that Dion dismissed some of the players and said they weren't good enough or whatever. I don't know if he did it nice to him in person or not, but when he goes out and talks on camera, it doesn't seem like he did it too nicely. But it does happen at every school. I mean, if you're not good enough, you're going to be asked to go to the transfer portal just because. So
do you think he was taking a shot at Coach Prime, or just talking in general? Or do you think he was trying to do a little bit of both, kind of undercover?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think that maybe he's talking for some other head coaches around the nation, but it was definitely targeted, I'm sure, towards Deion Sanders.
Because he's known, he made the comments last portal cycle when Jordan Addison was picked to go to USC. He goes, there was definitely tampering involved. So he's never been the shy guy of calling somebody out of how the process is being ran. But again, the question goes to, is that on Lincoln Riley? I guess it's like golf, right? It's the gentleman's rule, right? It's the, like when you're playing beer pong, it's like, hey, gentleman's touch. So you get to follow the rules here. And so these guys may not be following the typical gentleman's touch. And that's just kind of like, that's just breaking bro code. You're not necessarily breaking a code, but you're breaking a bro code. And when you break bro code, you may not get along with everybody, but you may go home with the girl. So it just kind of depends on who you are. And so you might get some, backlash for it, but nobody's really breaking the rule. It's a silent rule that everyone's supposed to respect. Steve, welcome back.
Yeah, so I thought you hated me there for a moment. It told me you didn't want me here. So no, look, I don't know exactly where we left off. I will say, look, there's no chance that the NCAA instituted an NIL rule, instituted a transfer rule that gave you pretty much unlimited amounts of transfers, because you get one free one, and then you get a waiver, if your mom is 2 states away and she coughs, right? So now you can transfer as many times as you want, and now you can visit as many times as you want. The NIL takes over. At no point in time did I ever think that the governing body of the sport that I love so much ever had a real handle on this damn thing. They didn't, right? So we had to expect that in situations like, well, other coaches might be trying to entice these kids to get into the portal before they're even, available or eligible. Thank you, genius. I mean, I could have told you that when I was playing a video game on this in 2014.
So you're insinuating that there's a lot of there's a tampering. It's happening for sure.
Yeah,
from everybody. Dion, Lane Kiffin, Mike Norvell. We were talking about this pre-cast. Mike Norvell has been crowned. That him, Lincoln, and Lane have been passing this crown. Coach Prime has now put his hat into the bid of Portal King because of how effective they've been in the portal. And sometimes when you have, we're in sales, when you have the gap from the top school to the bottom school, so much greater, is you start looking and go, why is the gap so big? Alabama been recruiting for so long. There's a reason there's a gap there. It's not just because Nick Saban's really good. If you pull back the curtain, it's not as probably squeaky clean as it should be. It's an unknown. They
had some NIL money before NIL money.
Yeah, it's definitely always been something that people have talked about, because, like you said, when somebody's so far ahead, it's like, yeah, he's a good coach, but he's not that good of a coach. You start to ask questions, and you got these 4 guys that are just crushing the portal. It's like, okay, makes sense. Like, there's a lot of excitement going on at Colorado. Makes somewhat sense. But Lane Kiffin, Lincoln Riley is like, how are you guys just dominating when you got Dabo Swinney, who hasn't even got anybody from the portal? He may be refusing to play the game, which is part of it, right? Miami was kind of quiet, which is weird. So there's just a lot of question marks here, and then you kind of brought up the point where, yeah, because these kids are going, they already know when they go into the portal where they're going. They're not entering to the portal with the hopes of finding a school. No,
right?
You're insinuating that Mike Norvell gives the kid a call and goes, hey, when you in the portal, if you don't commit to Florida, your spot is no longer committed. We're not doing no traveling. You're not doing any of this bullshit, which is scary. It's not like recruiting high school kids, because they get entered to the portal and nobody even looks their way.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part, and I think Soder talked about this a few weeks ago when we were all on, because Lord knows I missed last week. Sheldon will only remind me about that every single day of my life. But I want to say that we pulled up some of the portal statistics and saw how many kids had gone in and never came back out of it.
Yeah.
Right. So that tells me that tells me that those kids, that there's no tampering. There was no communication.
Yeah, they just went in and think, oh, it's the portal. Like, it's going to be great.
It's a portal.
But they didn't have a home already locked into place.
Like, it's the Twilight Zone, right?
And I mentioned a few times it's been weird because a kid doesn't even visit. Like, they'll enter the portal and it's like, yeah, I'm committing here. It's like, hold on, you have a second chance here to go around to all these schools and you're already committed to this school. Like, I get it's exciting, but you haven't even visited anywhere. Like, I feel like if you're a college kid, like, let's go travel. Let's go see some shit. I don't know.
Well, that's the other thing now, right? You have unlimited visits. So you go into the portal. Let's just say, hypothetically, once you're in the portal, you're technically qualified to stay there until you want to make a decision. You're not required to sign on a National Signing Day or anything like that. You just have to be in the portal by a certain time. So now you have the ability to take these unlimited visits, but then you got like these 9 kids that go into the portal and they're like, oh, we're all going to Colorado. Okay, one, you've all known each other for years. You've all lived on the same campus. You've all hung out with the same people. Like, you all talked. You got there for a reason. That part is what it is. So you can see that part. These kids are an open book, right? Like, they're not playing a very strong hand of cards. Now that, and then you've got the coach. The coach doesn't want these kids to take visits. They're in that portal for a reason. He was able to convince them to go in with the understanding that they come right back out. Exactly. So look, I mean, I'm sure it's happened, but we won't ever be able to read the tea leaves on this. But I would love to see how many kids have gone into the portal telling one coach, I'm yours.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take like 3 visits. And then the coach is like, then you're not mine. And if you pick me, or if you still want me after you take your 4 visits, I may not have a spot for you. Because look, I'll use FSU, and I don't think that FSU had any weird collusion or anything going on, but we had to let people get into the portal, which ended up being a Colorado recruiting ground, because we were over the scholarship limit. Well, then to get under the scholarship limit, we had to let these guys go. But then, you let maybe a few more go than you wanted to, because there's also some really good guys in the portal. But then you know that you're up against it because they're taking visits. So you can see the difference in those two vacuums that are happening simultaneously.
I think it's a classic case of you got one guy in Pat who is claiming to follow the rules and go by the book, which in this scenario he's getting burned by it, and you got some, and the others like the Norvells. This is being insinuated. I'm not pointing any fingers here, but Dion and things like that are pushing the envelope a little bit, right? They're dancing in the gray line, and they're going over what may or may not be the rule of a gray line that's already there, and capitalizing from it. Where Pat's following the rules and getting burned. So now he's sitting here. He goes, "Well, hey, these guys are cheating. They're not doing the right rules, and that's why I'm losing. So I'm frustrated." And it's that weird situation. It's like, yeah, but we didn't know this was kind of he was breaking the rules. So what could happen is they change it. Unfortunately, Prime and these other guys aren't going to be negatively impacted by it. Pat's just going to be sitting there with his hand in his pants. Well, hey, it's fixed now, but you're still behind, bud. It's a shitty situation, and it's not anybody's fault outside of the NCAA's for not regulating it, to be honest with you. It's the world we live in. Yeah. Like, if you don't think somebody's going to try to do something to get an edge, you're crazy. It's the reason why drugs exist. Everybody's doing it. And it's, look.
Oh, God. I can name 1,000 things that people do that they shouldn't be doing.
Not all the drugs you did, Dave. Not all the drugs you did.
Yeah, but look, I'm talking like it's doing steroids or whatever it may be. You're always trying to get the edge over somebody else. Like, it's just human nature of like, I'm falling behind. What do I have to do? I have to cut a corner here. I've got to cut a corner there. And when you're in a system that enables that, it's going to happen. So at some point, it's either you either join them or beat them. Or you can't beat them, join them. And that's kind of where I think Pat's at. Look, kudos to him for standing up, kind of being that like the, kind of trying to stick to the old-fashioned way. Could be just a case of you're getting beat, old man. You're a little behind the 1-2 step, and he's just like, what the hell's going on? And things are moving too quick. I don't know, but was it a shot? It definitely was a very passive. Look, I'm always the young guy in our group at work. All you guys are much older than me. A little more swagger, a little more creative with your shit talking. I'm very direct and into your face, saying, "Hey, you're a little bitch." Where the rest of y'all are more passive about it. You got a little more class with it. Where you'll leave the room and go, "You just fucking shitted on me," and you didn't even realize it. That's kind of I felt like what Pat was doing here is he was taking a jab, and then everyone left the room and go, "Damn, he just shitted on Dion." Right? Without doing, because we were kind of caught up on what he was saying, and after the fact, now everybody's running with it. It's like, wow, he was roasting him here. I don't think it was that direct. I think it was definitely a jab. But it's going berserk. I mean, everyone's, because obviously anything with Coach Prime right now is polarizing, and they feel like, oh, he's being attacked, it's going to be mayhem. But it's not just him that's doing it. Florida State did it more than anybody. He's just not being called out to the same extreme because he was already there. It wasn't quite the flip, right, where you're literally telling kids, I'm bringing in my Gucci. That's where that's going to be.
Could you imagine if that was Spurrier?
Spurrier wouldn't have wanted to bring that many kids in at once. He didn't like kids. He said, there's about 8 of you I can deal with. The rest.
And look,
like,
here's the thing too. You don't even know if it's going to work. So Pat getting all up in a frenzy about this is like, you don't even know if this is going to work. This guy could be completely just bombshelling his team by doing this with this complete overhaul. You have no clue. So you're bitching and whining. You have no idea if it's even going to work. Just play your game, man. Like I don't know. I feel like it's also sometimes a discredit. And this is where people get upset. It's like you're taking away from the Norvells and the Lincoln Rileys and whatever it may be because we're assuming because of how well they're doing. And the same thing happens at work, Steve. When somebody's doing really well, we immediately think they're cheating, which is also unfortunate because what if they're just doing a really good job? What if they're just better at it than us, right?
My dad told me,
Go ahead.
Oh, my dad told me growing up that if people can cheat and get away with it, they will do it. And you see it, like you saw it in baseball. People were taking steroids for the longest time in baseball, passing their drug test, getting away from it. Lance Armstrong, same thing. Saw it with him. Now you see pro gamers cheating and get it, and a lot of them don't get caught because they're in cahoots with all these other gaming companies, and the gaming companies make so much money off of them that they just allow them to do it anyway. I mean, you see it all over the internet. So it's like, if you can get away with something and make money or achieve a goal faster than anybody else, you're going to do it. Like the bags, like the NIL before the NIL. They were doing that. Do you think these schools aren't tampering and trying to get players to their school? You're full of crap if you think that's not going on. I mean,
So-
it's all going on.
I'm going to go a little bit of the press box here for a quick second because I think you make a good point. Anything you ever want to do is going to be tough. I think people see the end result and they're like, I want to get there. How do I get there? And they look at where that person's at now. Think about us, for example, our show, comparing us to somebody like a Josh Pate or a Pat McAfee. Do they have certain connections that have allowed them to excel faster than maybe we will? Absolutely. But that doesn't discredit what Josh Pate and Pat McAfee are able to do. Those guys are polarizing in what they do. They're phenomenal. And what people don't see as well, which I understand, is that, yeah, it may felt like, okay, it only took them a year or two, but there's way more years and grinds and failures behind that we don't remember, nor did we see, that led up to that point of getting there. This show here, let me think how many YouTube channels I've failed at until this show. Like, nobody has any clue how many times that I've failed at this, and I'm probably failing at this. I don't even know it yet. To get to this point, like,
I like how you get the mic to work half the time.
We can't even get the guys to work on the show half the time. So it's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes. And what happens is if people come onto the show, it's like, man, this guy's only doing it for 2 years. I can get there. So they try to find shortcuts and cut ways to get to that point. Not understanding, it's like, no, this guy has been doing it for forever. The Kobe's, the Michael Jordans, like, they just saw the production on the field. You forget, these guys are literally shooting hoops at 4 o'clock in the morning. They were practicing 3 and 4 and 5 times a day. Maybe that first year you didn't notice it, but after 5 years of practicing 4 and 5 times more than the average person, by year 6, 7, they're light years beyond you. And that's why the longevity was there, right? It lasts. So the shortcutters, the guys that cut corners, are typically, they'll get caught. You just gotta work them out, and you can't let them beat you. But it's my little high horse there for
My first podcast only got like 20 downloads when I first started. So
it's a grind, man. It's tough. Like, it's so hard, and it's like it's
solid, actually.
Yeah, that's actually really good.
I'm surprised that people
we
were
talk about it all the time. When
podcasts,
Steve and I first started this thing, bro, we were talking to 4 people. One was my cell phone, the other one was Steve's cell phone. It was my mom and wife and his wife. Like, and we would tell our friends, please log on and comment so YouTube likes it. And even still, like, I still kind of question, like, hey, are we doing enough? Are we doing well enough? Right? We had 100 plus people, 200 plus people, and now I'm at a point where, like, man, how do we get more? How do we continue to grow? Like, no, appreciate where we're at. Like, this is pretty incredible. So shit takes time. I know we're kind of getting off tangent here, but
yeah, I know.
Yeah. Let's move on to our last little bit here, over versus under. We were saving this for you, Steve, because you were having technical difficulties.
Woo!
But this is Steve's little segment he wanted to rock and roll with, so give it to us, big guy.
I legitimately
go,
thought,
baby.
I got a little message that said that you didn't want me on the cast anymore. I'm like,
no clue, bro.
You made that clear before the show started. I didn't know why you would wait until the actual show started.
I hope his mic doesn't go out again.
The guy's over like touching shit, like hitting shit, and he blames me. I'm like, Steve, just quit fucking touching shit, dude. Just talk to the mic.
All right. I'm going to throw this one out there. This is going to be a very, very, very subjective one, okay? But I want to point out that there's obviously been some changes to the gameplay and the way that the game is regulated from kickoff until the blow of the final whistle, okay? The game has been sped up. We are not going to see the game clock stop while the fat asses on the sideline are trying to hustle their big asses up the sideline to get the sticks marked anymore. Not going to happen, right? We're basically in a pro game for all intents and purposes. Now, there's still going to be some times inside the 2 minutes you're going to get some of those luxuries, but they're expecting that at least 3 game minutes gone per game in just these changes that they've made starting just this year. So I'm going to go high or low, and I'm going to kick this one to Soder.
Over
first.
under.
High or low?
Over under.
Over under. Whichever one you want here. Over under. The number is 4. How many times will you say either positively or negatively that the new clock system affected the outcome of a Florida game?
Over.
Just a personal game. You're saying over. I was going to say under, but
you said Florida game.
Just Florida, not any game. Just our own team. Yeah, how are we going to go? Shit, if the clock would have stopped there or whatever it may be, we would have had it.
I might do it.
The timeline will 100% be there. I think because of the speed, the clock being able to stop on the first down, it's going to, because we're going to in our head know that that's a possibility. And I think coaches are going to, I think teams and players are going to be a little at first mismanagement, and they may not even mismanage it, but because us as fans, just who we are, we're going to find the negative in it. And I think it's going to be over 4. I thought for sure it'd be under 4, but because of that time management, I know that was a big thing last year. And what I love about college football is we get a first down, it's like, all right, time's going to stop. Like, we're good. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of like you get a second to kind of breathe. When NFL, you don't have that chance to breathe, and timeouts come into play. So I think it's going to help us a lot too. I think people are going to mismanage the clock, and we're like, man, because it looked like they didn't know what they were doing. They mismanaged the timeout. They mismanaged that first down for forgetting the clock was still running. We were able to capitalize on it because the quarterback was in a frenzy, or vice versa. I think it's going to be over for sure.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of penalties and fake injuries. Stop that clock.
Yeah,
a lot of fake injuries. Oh, especially against the Tennessees, who run a very, very high-paced offense. I can see a lot of fake injuries. Yeah. Golly. I'm going to say over 5 games. I'm just going to look at the FSU season from last year, right? We had the Florida game that was a one-possession score, or a one-possession game. We had the NC
a penalty
State game
that didn't count.
That shouldn't have got you there in the first place because there was no pass interference. But then we had,
AR's helmet.
Wake Forest game. Yeah, we had enough games in just last year alone to say that if any time would have changed at all whatsoever, could have been a whole different outcome. Now, look, it could have been a situation where we weren't in that situation to begin with, where we weren't up against the clock with our defense on the field. Maybe that part's not even a factor in the game. But I can think of at least 5 games right now in just last season that tells me that if there was a clock change in the normal ebb and flow of how I know college football is supposed to work, then it would have been potentially a different outcome. So I'm going to go higher than 4 games this year for FSU. Over.
What else you got?
He's a gambling guy. All right, so let's do this. So I'm gonna break down.
This is a fun one. I like this
1, 6, 7. All right, so I've got 8 games that I can guarantee will have a top 10 team in the game. Now, there's a couple others that are a little sporadic here. I'm only going to go with 8 games that I can guarantee will have a top 10 in it. All right. Okay. I'm not going to go with ones that have a 48% or a 47% draw line. Okay. So this is going to be over under 3. How many top 5 teams will lose in the first week? You have to account for the point advantage, though.
The spread.
Yep.
So Georgia is obviously going to be one. Ohio State, Bama, LSU, and probably Florida State are your top 5 teams, right? That's what we're guessing.
Right. That's my guess. Yes, and you can sprinkle Clemson in there potentially, but I'm not sure where they're going to fall.
So FSU, LSU, one's going to lose. So there's one game right there. Who does Ohio State play?
Ohio State has no.
We know Georgia's not going to lose because they don't play anybody at all on their schedule except for us in Tennessee.
So that's a why. Who does Bama play?
Nobody to start.
So it's going to be under 3 then at that point.
Yeah.
LSU and Florida State might be the only game that loses. Because I don't think Ohio State's going to lose. And Michigan's going to be up there too, though.
Michigan going to be up there. Yeah, but again, it's another dud of. Well, so how about this? We'll do it this way. So Florida is +9. Florida or Utah in Utah right now. I'll add that one in.
And Utah's a top 10 school.
Yep.
More than likely.
I'm
still saying
we'll add that one in.
I'm going to go under 2.
Under 3,
right.
yeah.
Now the one thing I will say, this game starts the year every year. It's always the least appreciated game, but it's always a really good one if you watch it. It's South Carolina and North Carolina. They play this game every year.
They're playing first?
They play September 2nd.
That's going to be a big game, man, with Drake May. North Carolina's supposed to be good.
Yep.
I put them in the top 3 for the ACC favorites. South Carolina, I had them last year as being kind of like that if or if team, that this or that team. Either they're going to be really good or they're going to be what they were. But they really found their stride at the end of the year. They're coming off a hot recruiting class. Not that this recruiting class is going to impact that year, but just the energy's in the right place for them. That game could really set the tone for both of those teams for next year. That's going to be a fun one.
Right.
It's going to be real fun.
That's a fun game. And it literally has been competitive just about every year.
Two quarterbacks that are going to be, Spencer Rattler Drake May is considered to be a first-round draft pick. Spencer is not, but Spencer has an opportunity to really, that's going to be his campaign to put the noise out there if he's going to be a top first-round quarterback. So, man, that's going to be a hell of a battle. We're going to do a watch party for that one.
Yeah, I like that one. And what do you think about Notre Dame and Navy? That's always been a classic rivalry that's usually played towards the end of the year, but it's a 21 point.
As you were.
Yeah.
Well, I think Navy might be good, just as good as Marshall, so maybe Notre Dame.
Damn. Well, hey, guys, almost 2 hours in, and we're humming along. We got over 180 people in the chat. Incredible. Got 105 likes. Appreciate you guys showing the love and the likes as always. Love you guys. Can't say that enough for coming out here and always hanging out with us. My appreciation. I hope you guys hear my voice every time we say it, because it really means a lot for you guys to show out and be here. Went to Zach Bryan last night, and it was incredible. Just hearing all the people there singing with him, just cheering him on, wanting him to be successful. And I get that same energy when we come on here and we see you guys arguing and fighting with one another. But for the fact that we come on here once a week and we've got just the people that want to hang out and listen to us ramble on for over an hour, 2 hours, means the absolute world to me. It does every single time. It's humbling every week that we come on here, because every time I turn the camera on, it could be nobody shows up. But you guys continue to show up, and we appreciate it. So love you guys. We'll see you next week. Come on Sunday. We have a show every Sunday now, live at 7:35, where it's heavy NFL with the professor Cody from F's Fanatics. So come check us out if you're not watching that show. And then if not, we go live every Wednesday. So until next time, I am Sheldon.
I'm Holly.
And I am the Dave Meister.
Boogity, 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 boys. No Pac-12 tonight, Connor. I'm sorry, Bubba. Next week, though, Bubba. Be good, boys.